Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Real Reds Talk. Alongside me today, we have Senor Chivi Ortega. We are going to discuss the topics on the screen. Sancho and Rashford's future. Fabrizio Romano has been talking about both players. I want to get Chivi's opinions on that. We've had a very positive update on Ayden Heaven, which is fantastic. We've been linked with a Bellingham, not the Jude Bellingham, Bellingham's brother, who's smashing it at Sunderland at the moment. We also have a crazy stat to touch upon in regards to our team as well towards the end of the show, so make sure you stick around for that. But we're going to kick it off with Rashford and Sancho's future, Chivet. Fabrizio Romano reporting earlier on today that both are really expected to leave Manchester United this summer. Now, that's not obviously breaking news in itself. We already know that, right? We already know. We're all under the impression that this is going to happen. But what I wanted to ask you was, and I thought was an interesting talking point, is what happens if, one, Villa can't find an agreement, let's say we can't, which is, it could be likely because the finances involved, especially with Rashford's wages, are going to be heavy, right? And then two, you've got this whole situation with Jadon Sancho at Chelsea where they're looking to maybe cut that obligation and pay a fine to actually not keep him, which is mental in itself. On both players specifically, has A, Rashford done enough to garner interest, do you think, to maybe get that sale? And as B, are you surprised by Sancho's performances at Chelsea?
I think Rashford's done enough. He's shown, so far. I don't know how many games he's played for them, but I think he's done enough to sort of secure that. And I think Villa will probably try and get him. They're probably just doing this to just see if they can, just part of like negotiation tactics and stuff. B, Sancho. I think I'm quite surprised because he started off quite well at Chelsea, and apparently he's just kind of like fallen off a cliff. And I think the scary thing about the Sancho thing is, I think the fine is like 5 mil, 10 mil, something.
Is it that low?
It's low. I think the fine is low, from what I understand.
I haven't seen figures. I've only said it could be just a fine, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, don't quote me on it. I just heard this is like last week when this whole thing was going on. I heard a few people mention that it might be like a low fee. So it might be one of those things where they might just cut their losses and send him back.
That says a lot about a player, though, doesn't it? If they're paying 5 mil to send him back.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I don't know how that's going to work. One thing I know is that Ineos is ruthless. If there's anything we've learned from Ineos, it's like they're ruthless. And it wouldn't surprise me if I saw a situation where they were just frozen out of the team and then just told, just go and find another club. Like how Chelsea did to, I think it was Raheem Sterling and a few other players. Yeah, they were just like, listen, just find another club. Like, But the internationals coming up, I think Marcus Rashford would be more hard-pressed to secure playing time. Whether that means taking the pay cut to play at Villa, going somewhere else, With Sancho, I don't know how that's going to play out. But as far as transfers, I've been very impressed with the way Ineos are, with the way they sound. Like they're not willing to, we're not paying stupid money for players. We're being very, very cutthroat about certain decisions we're making. And I don't think Ineos are the type that would allow themselves to be sort of roped into some stupid sort of deals or situations, really. And I think they're ready to cut their losses on both players. So I think either way, if they don't fit in the plans, they're not just going to shoehorn them back in there. They will find a way to sell them and make money. And we have capable people now, making decisions. So, with Wilcox, with Ravel, I'm sure they'll find a way. I'm not worried about either.
We were speaking to James about this yesterday about, obviously, Omar Barada had this thing at City, didn't he, where there was kind of a cap and he wouldn't go past £50 million. And if you actually look at, I want to say quite a few of City signings when they've gone that far and overspent on players, it hasn't really worked out. I mean, Jack Grealish, £100 million. That the season when they won the treble, he was quite good, but apart from that, he's not really done much at Man City. For us, Anthony, I mean, there's endless list for us that I don't want to go through. But it kind of makes sense, just like boxing clever around 40, 60 million. You can still get unbelievable talents around that fee. And then obviously when you're recruiting younger as well, naturally they're gonna have a sell-on clause, aren't they? So it's not like you're getting to a point with Casemiro now where he's on 350 grand a week, and then you get he's 33. Does anyone want to buy him? Do you want to buy him? And they're like, well, no, because he's it's going to cost us £1.4 million a month and the transfer fee on top of that as well. So it's I agree with much more smarter, should I say, recruitment from Ineos. And I'm gonna talk about Ayden Heaven in a moment because we've had an update on him as well, and he kind of fits into that mold. But just the last question on these two. In the kind of World Cup picture, do you see any of them getting into it, or obviously it's more likely to be Rashford, you would probably guess, right?
Yeah, I probably think it'd be Rashford because he's looked really good at Villa. Like he's looked up for it. I mean, Rashford's quality is undeniable. Both of them, really. I mean, they've got really good quality. I think sometimes it's just down to the application. At Villa, he has a connection with Asensio. They just sound revitalized.
Yeah.
The other players, the fans, like everyone's loving it, and I think he's earned it. I think Thomas Tuchel would be. I mean, you have to take Rashford.
You would take him right now
to the World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Over an Anthony Gordon.
Me personally, yes, but I'm not a manager. Yeah, I'll take both. Like, who else is there? Gordon.
Yeah.
Who else is there?
I'm trying to think on the left-hand side. To be fair, there isn't like. I mean, I must be missing someone massive now, but off the top of my head, on the left side, I can't think of many players really.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So consistency has been a problem for Marcus Rashford. One season is up, one season is down, and that sort of thing. But he does step up when required, and I think with the England setup, he has a thing to prove. Maybe his time at United was just done. He couldn't just motivate himself to sort of play for us. Maybe he just needs, don't cope. I'm sorry if I said one off. Maybe he just needed that freedom, That's something.
Oh God, the F word.
Yeah, maybe he just needs to go away. Just go away, and it's great. Like if he goes, I really hope he lights it up for Villa for the rest of the season, just so we can sell him. I like what's happening with Anthony. He's doing well. There's a deal that could be done there, or with someone else. Maybe Saudi could be interested. That sort of thing. I really hope Jadon Sancho picks up as well, so that we can sell.
Yeah.
We need all the money we can get.
Yeah, with Sancho, it's I watch quite a lot. I don't watch Chelsea fans, but I watch like Matisse, for example, who's quite popular with Chelsea fans.
I like Matisse.
Yeah, I think he's quite good. But like when he's assessing Sancho, you could just tell like it's like almost me and Sam described it's like a tug of war for a player that no one wants to pick up the rope and play the tug of war. And it's weird because I actually, as much as United fans give Sancho quite a lot of shit, and I get some of it to a certain extent, but not like the insulting stuff and taking it personal. But in terms of performances on the pitch, I understand it. I just don't. I feel like he's going to end up having a career like go down the path like Ravel Morrison or something like that, where it's like distractions are taken away from you.
Dele
Alli, another one, because he's obviously talented. Yeah. You look at Dortmund, like he was fucking unbelievable. And now you watch him play, it's like he's not beating a man. You got wingers who can't beat a man, and they can't really, they're not contributing with goals. He hasn't had a shot on target since December.
Yeah, and I think for me, I think it's a mental thing. I think it's just something in there. We've seen it a lot. Yeah, we saw it. Like people just kind of just fall out. Right? What's his name? David Bentley just dropped out of Tottenham. Stopped playing.
There's a name.
Danny Drinkwater just gave it up. Like it just happens, And I think that's the thing with Jadon Sancho as well. I think it's just the application because the talent is there, like the quality is there. But it's just the application. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on with him. But yeah, I think that's just what it is. Honestly.
I think it goes to show professionalism in the game at that high level.
Goes a long way.
Yeah.
Goes a long way.
Because players like James Milner and people and guys like this, do you think they're more talented than Jadon Sancho? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But are they more dedicated, more professional, and work a lot harder? I can guarantee you they do.
For sure, that was a perfect example you used there with Milner.
Yeah. You look how many clubs he's played for, longevity, consistency, whether people say it's that high level or whatever you want to call it. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's true, man. T2 is saying, evening, lads. Imagine a club playing millions to not have you play for them as a professional. How do you come back from that? How could you look at yourself in the mirror? One thing I'm interested to know, if there was a statistic on this, how much money have we spent paying other players to play at other clubs?
Right.
That's got to be a lot on it.
Mate, we can't even start. Like, it's just depressing to think about it. Like, it's really depressing. I remember when I was watching Jim Ratcliffe's interview where he said we're still paying for players that are not even here, like every year. We're still paying transfer fees for players. Like, but yeah, if we start adding up, I mean, if we pull out the calculator and start putting up the numbers, like, it is depressing. It's
I might actually do that since like post Fergie. I might look into that and see. Because obviously you think about loans like Sanchez. Alexis Sanchez went to Inter Milan and we were paying it $300 a week to play for him to play there. Martial, I think we covered his wages as well. And when he went over to Civir, it's
bad, bro. Like,
wasting shitting money.
Way back. Yeah, literally just burning through cash. Like if I want to quote Richard Arnold, where he when he had the little the pints with the fans, and then they were recording. He was like, we fucking burned through cash. Yeah. Literally, that's it. That's what we've done, and that's why we find ourselves in this position. But I think for me, like, I've always been a very strong believer in the brains that we have now with Ineos, with Barada and Vivel and Wilcox. I just feel like at the very least, we have people that kind of, they know what they're doing. They have experience. It will be. I know it's the sort of thing where people can't expect them to come in and just wave a magic wand, and then everything's just okay. We're gonna have to go through some really, really shitty periods before it starts to pay off. Like it doesn't happen that way. Like, they're not just gonna come and then all of a sudden everything's fine. Like, things are gonna happen, but we might fall deeper financially, but eventually, I think we're setting up in such a way that within the next a year or 2, 3 years, everything starts to pay off. So that's for me. That's the light at the end of the tunnel.
I think instantly when you think about that. So, for example, Jadon Sancho, for 1 month him playing at Chelsea, or 2 months I think it is going to cost us the same amount as what we pay for Ayden Heaven. So when you look at something like that, that's when you go, it's just box clever, lads. You know what I mean? Be smart in the market. There are opportunities there that clearly they're aware of now, and clearly that they're targeting. Because I think you look at him when he come in, and obviously he picked up an injury in the last game. Everyone thought it was a lot worse than what it actually was. But it seems like he wasn't wearing a protective boot at Carrington, so it's literally going to be a couple of weeks maximum, which is great news, isn't it, considering how he started?
It's great. It's really great news. And we're starting to see, like, I like it when fans, like, get behind the player. So, especially a young player like that. But we need to give him time. Like, we really just can't rush him to be this big. I remember for Semenza, his first couple of games at centre-back under Van Gaal, he was immense. Then he gets injured. And then everything just he just literally just dropped off a cliff.
Tuanzebe as well, I'd probably throw in there. I remember Tuanzebe,
like, it happens. So I just hope we learn from the past and not big him up too much, because what tends to happen is we big up these guys, something happens, they don't really turn out to be that player, and then we just start to we just start to take them out. We start they become a meme. Yeah. We start making fun of them. We start calling them useless, sell him. And, we just let's just be patient with him.
What have you made of him so far, though? From obviously, it's only a handful of games in it, 4 or 5 games, but he's for a young kid that you think he got thrown right into the mix. I was surprised when it was at Sociedad, and when they announced him in the stadium, I was like, hey, starting him. And it's a big fucking call, that, for a young kid. Like, I'm not saying he doesn't have ability, but naturally, a coach would lean more towards a more experienced player in those kind of situations.
Did Lindelof start that game?
I think Heaven, Lindelof, and De Ligt, I think it was.
And De Ligt, okay,
yeah.
I was worried because, to be fair, when he played against Arsenal, he played really well. I was kind of still iffy about his passing. Like, he didn't look too comfortable on the ball. There were a couple of times when he was passing the ball to Dogo and there wasn't enough pace on it, so it was a bit slow, and then allowing people to intercept. Defensively, physically sound. That's the Premier League defender. We need Premier League sort of players, But then on the ball, I wasn't too impressed. But then Sociedad, there was a big improvement. Now, unfortunately, he then got injured. But then so far so good. I mean, you can't complain. £1 million. Come on, like that is, and he's coming and he settled in well. Yeah, bargain. And I think I like the support from the fans. I think with the teammates, everything just seems to be blended, So yeah, can't complain. I don't think anyone can complain about Ayden Heaven. And I think, did you see? I don't know if it's a chant already, but I saw that somewhere online. Where it's like, ooh, baby, do you know his worth?
Yeah.
Ayden Heaven is a place on
earth. Yeah. But it's like, Andy Mittens spoke about this. He said, like, trying to get the Stretford end, a load of Mancunian Salford lads to try and sing that is a bit like, because it's a good chant, but then the actual song itself is a bit kind of like poppy in it. Like, do you know what I mean? So, but I'll get to go to the Stretford end. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on. After a couple of pints, like I'll be singing that all night.
Have you seen the Amarin chant? The new one.
I heard it, but I don't know the words. But I kept hearing it over and over. I think
big fan of that.
Was it the Sociedad game?
Ruben Amarin, he's gonna bring the glory days again. He'll sing it from the Stretford end. He'll turn the Reds around. Mate, I am all for that. Yeah. Next Stretford end, get me in there. I mean, it's funny because when he gets asked about that, he goes, "No, he's dead humble about it. He's like, I don't understand it. I don't get it." And he's like, I think secretly. Hearing that from the Stretford end, you'd like that a little bit, wouldn't you? Just a little bit.
I'd be singing it all night. You could just hear it from. Yeah.
I'm a fan.
That's a good one.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if it says a lot about you, doesn't it? I suppose if you're getting chance already at the age of 18, and you've just come in to join the club, because when I think it got briefed initially with Ayden Heaven that when we first bought him, it was like, he's going to be kind of secondary to Lissandro, second in command, and everyone was like, I'm not sure about that. Like he's not played any minutes for Arsenal.
Me too. I was like, what? Bringing him straight in. I thought like he'd play, and then maybe next season, we could see what he can do in pre-season stuff.
Yeah.
But nah, he's stepped up. And this is the thing about being professional and just waiting for your opportunity, because that would have been Lenioro's position, if Euro was fit. But then obviously we lost Euro, and then sometimes you just have to be ready. All the time. Like it's kind of similar to how Rashford came in. Like Martial was injured, and then James Wilson.
James Wilson won it.
Yeah, and then Will Keane was injured. Yeah. So the two options, and then they had to bring. And then Rashford played well that weekend on the wing against Man City in the under 18s or whatever. And then Van Gaal was like, "Fuck it, bring him in." And he was not supposed to play. Like he was not even, but he was ready. So yeah,
I think it can't be stated how small a window is in football to get your opportunity, especially at clubs like Manchester United at the highest level, especially when they're struggling as well. So to get that window for him to come in, I think that's why it was so kind of devastating. They did pick up that injury, because it's like you've just got your moment now. You just
why does it always happen? Like it happened to Kobe as well. It happened to Euro. Now Ayden Heaven. For Cemento, like I mentioned earlier, it happened to him. Like they just, I don't know. Like our luck has to, come on, man. Our luck has to change at some point.
But one thing isn't a curse is Carrington at the minute, Chivy. I think there's a lot of exciting talents coming out there. Bendito, Mantato, Jack Fletcher, Morehouse are all names that are being pushed at the minute. You see someone like Ayden Heaven come into the team and perform how he does. These kids are fearless at the minute, innit? I feel like, do you feel like when we go into the summer, obviously there's names that are being flung about left, right, and centre in terms of who we're going to buy, but are we actually overlooking Carrington a bit as well? Because some of these could actually come into the first team and be regulars.
I think so too. I think Mantato would have probably come in a bit earlier, but he got injured at some point, and he had to go off the ball a bit. But I think we might have seen him earlier. But I think we'll see him soon. And yeah, I mean, Amarim hasn't really used the youth as much as I expected him to. Like I'd have wanted, because like with Van Gaal, like he was throwing them in every single. I mean, do you remember Tyler Blackhead? Like Van Gaal was throwing them in, and I really hope Amorim gets to the position where he's comfortable enough. Because I can understand on being under pressure. You need to produce results. You can't really hedge your bets on youth that you hardly even know. And he's admitted that he hardly even, well, I won't say he hardly, but he's also admitted like that he didn't really know our players that well. Like it took him a while to actually know how to use players. So for him to even, that's the first thing, not talk of, the other 18s. But I'd love to see, people come in, Fitzgerald, Jim Thwaites, there's quite a few of them. The Fletcher twins, Jack Fletcher especially, I'd love to see that. And especially Mantato, like he's a really good winger. He's comfortable on both feet. So I'd like to see, at least some of them feature in pre-season and possibly, come in.
I think that Bendito Mantato, I think he's the one in the summer to look for when he comes in, because he fits that Kenda role perfectly. And if he comes in, they'll be buzzing if he hits the ground running, because you've just saved yourself 60 million quid there, 60 million quid, and you can go spend it on another position.
And every time you see him, he has this arrogance in a good way. Like he has this kind of, like he's always like, he's not hesitant. Like he gets at his players, and he has this thing where there's a hunger there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'd all like to see that. But yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, I personally haven't seen too much of him, but I've been hearing his name for like a year now. But yeah, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone who's joining, please do smash the like of the video, subscribe to the channel. We are on 13,375 subs. Also, go check out the show that we did with James from Muppeteers last night as well. Really insightful on everything Ineos are doing over the next kind of couple of months heading into the summer as well. And some interesting bits on finances and the stadium in there, which I think people will appreciate. So if you haven't seen that yet, then please do check that out. We've got a random guy in the chat saying Ayden Heaven looks better than Yoro. I mean, that is a big shout, and he's a small sample size at the moment for both of them. So I'd rather not. Comparison is the thief of joy. I'd rather not. I'd rather appreciate them both individually. For me,
I get it. I get it, because Euro's best games have come when he's played on the left-hand side of the three. But remember, he played a lot of games on the right-hand side, especially, and the Southampton game was like a big one. Where he got skinned repeatedly. But his last few games on the left-hand side have been good. But I get it. I can see why people would think that. I personally wouldn't. But yeah.
Do you know what? Carl Anker made a really good point on this about, I don't know if I mentioned it to you in the chat or anything, but he's spoken about with the fact that Ayden Heaven and Yoro being so young and 18, having someone like De Ligt, who's played for 4 of the biggest clubs in each country, so Ajax, Juventus, Bayern Munich, and now Manchester United, going through that experience will help these young kids alongside him so much, because he's played in almost every tactical setup. He's been under, multiple different kinds of pressure from each kind of club. I thought that was a really good point, mate. I think he's, even though he's only 24, De Ligt, he's so experienced, even in Champions League in Europe as well. Like, he's got a really wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, he was a young captain at Ajax as well. I think he was captain at like 18 or something like that. But he was really young when he was captain. Yeah, so yeah, it would be good. I've always had this thing where, I don't want to go too much into it, but I've always had this thing where, like, as a player, well, with strikers, I don't know about defenders, but as a player, you are who you are. Like, there's only so much you can learn from people. But as far as like maybe temperament, experience, that
guiding
sort of
in a game is what I'm talking about.
Guiding, yeah, perfect, yeah.
Just experience from, I've played in a back three before. Like, I know,
especially as a defender, especially as a as a central defender, I can see it.
This is a defender who's played with Bonucci, Chiellini. Like, there'll be little dark arts, little tricks in the game that he would have learned off them, and you can pass that knowledge down to these players alongside him. But obviously, in terms of doing it on the pitch, they individually are absolutely like Yoro and Heaven have to do that. But I'm excited about both of them. I think as young centre-backs coming through, very, very exciting prospects. But you just need that.
Let me ask you this. What happens when Lissandro comes back? What do you think? What do you think happens?
I've always said, and you can go back, I don't know, a year ago, when I was talking about Lissandro and saying that we need more of a physical profile in there. And for me, he's fantastic on the ball. He's unbelievable. He helps so much in that sense, but athletically, listen to Amarin, listen to Wilcox, if there's any been quotes from him, they've always spoken about having athletic players in the team because the Premier League has become, I mean, just this high energy ball of games where you need players like that to cover distances at a high peak. And Lissandro isn't that kind of build for me. So I don't know. I want someone who is as good as him on the ball, but has that athletic frame of like a Euro or a Heaven. So it depends how them two develop in terms of their ball progression. If they can get to that level, I'm playing them every day of the week for me. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, no, same. I mean, on the ball, like that's one of his strongest points, especially at the central defender. And with the way we're trying to play, we need people who are really, really good technically. So if they can improve on that, happy days. And Lissandro, after that injury, like he's had a bad season. I mean, it's been up and down.
He started to get good though, didn't it? Like December.
Yeah, he started getting better, a lot better. Yeah. But yeah, I'm still hoping that he comes back. You know, he gets back to his best because we need the experience. I really like it.
Yeah. Apologies, the price is just pushing me to say this in regards to Heaven and Euro. Delit is captain material. I agree. And you know what?
Yeah.
I think Paul Scholes went in on him a bit too much for my liking at the start of the season. Before,
but yeah, I heard about what did he say?
He didn't even kick a ball, and he was basically saying that I'm not sure. He's already played for Juventus, Bayern, and Ajax. Why have United taken him? I think he's overrated. All this kind of stuff, right? And it's like I think he had played 2 games or something when he was saying all this kind of stuff. And this is where this comes into me. I mean, I didn't have this on the agenda, but the ex-players, the pressure of that's been a big talking point on it for months, and I think they overdo it sometimes, and I think it's not needed.
Did we talk about this in the chat? I think we mentioned it. I think we talked about it a few times. Like it kind of brings me back to that saying about never meet your heroes. Like I know we haven't met them, you know, but then I just prefer the mystique of them. I just prefer, you know, just not really knowing too much about them. But then now it's just every other week there's another United ex-player just slamming the players. Like,
do you think there's a case of it where, like, because they know they're on Sky, and they know their job as a pundit is to get engagement and views and to say certain things that are gonna, you know, either resonate with the fans or fluff a few feathers, let's say, for example. Do you think they are doing this more now to get those kind of headlines, to get those kind of clicks? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you think they get anything out of that, or they just purely care? Because I'm it's a bit misty for me.
A year or two ago, I'd have said no, but now with the way everything is going, like it's all about engagement, and I think that plays a huge part of it. Like, because the more, you know, it's all about shock value now, and then the more outrageous you sound, this is just the more, you know, the more they
we live in an attention world, don't we? It's all about attention.
Yeah. It's all about that, and then you know you have to. Like, Paul Scholes is one of my favorite United players, like my top 3 favorite United players. But yeah, when you start saying things like that, like I don't. But here's my thing, and here's why I agree with you on that. Because what's the point? Like, what do you expect to happen when you say stuff like that? If you really, really care about the club and you care about the club, you wouldn't put that out publicly because you're a public figure and you know how your words can be carried. You know that the players are listening to this. It's not like you're telling them this, you know, in private. You're saying it out loud. What do you expect? What's the end game? What do you expect to happen when you say stuff like that? Do you think the players all of a sudden just gonna? Nah, it's not gonna happen. Like, you know. But then I like the way players are responding. After Bruno's criticism, he stepped up. And now this is what's with De Ligt, he's stepping up as well. So I don't know. I just don't like, you know, it's just and I don't see ex-Chelsea players slamming the club or, you know, as much as, you know, with United. It's just us, and I don't get it.
I think it adds to the because people always moan about, oh, it's the media are doing this. These guys that you're talking about, are the biggest parts of the media.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we moan about TalkSport and these kind of things, but what like Keane saying and Scholes and all these guys, and I get they were unbelievable legends, the 13 Premier League titles, I get all that stuff, but that doesn't make them great managers, or doesn't make them a great pundit necessarily just because they won a load of things.
It's not constructive. If the criticism is constructive, everyone will understand that. You know, but it's not. It's just. I don't know. It just sounds to a certain extent. It just sounds personal. It sounds sensationalist. It's just I don't know
I
what
agree.
it is. Man.
I agree. But look, if he's done it to, I mean, he's played a blinder. If he's done it to get a reaction out of Bruno, and he's done it, you know, if that's what he'd done in the dressing room, sometimes he'd poke a bear to kind of say, I don't believe you. You're a bluffer, mate. And he's gone, watch.
Yeah.
If I'm a bluffer, watch this now. And he went and done it.
Yeah.
If he's done that, then he's played the best human psychology game you've ever seen in your life. But I don't know. I feel like.
Did you see the Bruno's post interview? I think it was after Sociedad where
very
he said,
class.
"I know you're talking about." Yeah, he was like, "I know you're talking about Roy Keane." Like, like he said it. That's what he said.
Yeah.
And I like the way he responded to that. Like he was still very classy with the whole thing, and he didn't try and say, "Oh, what are you saying now?" sort of thing. But I like that. Maybe someone says, someone said adversity is a character. What's the saying? Something like adversity like shapes your character.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it is, and I think that's what's showing now.
100%. And Bruno knows the script anyway. He's been here for long enough about what's going to happen with pundits and ex-players. It's just part and parcel, unfortunately, of playing for Manchester United. We are going to switch gears slightly because there was a bit of transfer news. Manchester United have said to have identified Jobe Bellingham as an option to strengthen their midfield. He's having an unbelievable season with Sunderland at the moment. For anyone who hasn't watched him, he's not quite Jude Bellingham level, but I think he's playing pretty fucking well. Versatile player. I've watched his highlights in preparation for this before, so obviously highlights are highlights, but I was watching bits for him for Sunderland, and he's played in multiple positions, looks pretty good. But then a name like this, Chivy, it kind of almost feels like they're being linked because of the Bellingham name. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see much weight in this, but it does seem also at the same time that Ineos are starting to go down the route of buying players like this. Chris Rigg was another player that we linked with who plays for Sunderland as well, of youngsters from the Championship, gems like this who come into the Premier League and could do well. But do you see it more of as a name as like it's Bellingham? So it's Bellingham's brother. That's the only reason why I've been linked with him.
I don't want to be unfair to him because obviously I haven't seen him play. I don't know what he's about. And like I said, I think now we're going more. It's more data driven, and I think it's more like talent driven as well. So maybe there's something there. I don't know. I would like to think that because what's the game with the Bellingham? It's not the Bellingham. It's not.
And we already tried going for him. Imagine if we got rejected twice. You got rejected from Jude and then rejected from Jobe. What fucking hell?
Yeah. So I really I don't know what to make of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I will say this. I like young players that would come from the Championship. Like the Championship is like if you can swim there, like if you can survive there, bro. Because that's really a man's game. That's and I don't mean man as in like man like toxics or whatever thing that people say now. I mean it's a physical game. Like you can't survive there if you're just a boy. Like, you have to be up for it. So let's. I was laughing when you wrote that in the chat. Like what? Because I haven't heard that before. I haven't.
I bet people when I put Bellingham in the title, I bet people are thinking, no, that's not happening. Jude, you're joking. We're getting flashbacks and nightmares from when we rolled out the red carpet for him and brought in Cantona and Sir Alex.
What is he? Like, is he
midfielder?
Midfielder,
versatile midfielder. Like he's played as an attacking midfielder. He's played in a double pivot as more like a deeper one, similar to Bellingham. Yeah. To be fair, very similar. And I don't know. I'm sure, like you said before, with the data-driven approach, if there is something in that where they've looked at him and they've compared kind of the numbers, is it having a similar kind of growth? It might be worth a punt. Just depends how much they want for him, innit? Really, I suppose.
What's his name? Wasn't too bad. Thorgan Hazard. Eden's brother.
Wow.
Like he wasn't that bad. Like he was. I remember when I think Dortmund went for him because I was a big fan of Dortmund at some point, and I was like, and then they're just trying to get, and then he came in and for like 2 seasons he was decent, actually quite good. But maybe it's just one of them.
Interesting. UTFR saying, for me, Leach looked like the first player to really adapt to Amarin's structure. He was scoring some bangers as well, wasn't he? He scored that, was it one against Fulham? And then the Liverpool one. Everyone was like, oh my goodness me, barring in. Like, wow. and he started contributing quite a lot. He was pushing forward, as it's quite important for
Yeah,
one of those centre
it's
backs.
the switch. He's got that switch like that,
Ah,
because this is how we play. Like, and he's perfect for the system.
yeah.
His passing is amazing. Like, we need people who are really good on the ball, and Nietzsche's perfect.
There's so much of an emphasis, isn't there, on Amarin's the wide centre backs for progression
Yeah,
through the lines,
yeah.
and he's like one of the best in Europe at that.
Mm-hmm.
T2 years of senior comparison I can draw with the current United players is how Lawrence and Hansen used to hammer Liverpool. It probably stings to see what you built fall apart. I get it. I get like the passionate and the
Fair
emotional.
point. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
None of those players need to be kept. That's from Philip Tabbe. So that was in regards to the poll we put up. Freedom Sancho and the walking accomplice Rashford can leave. Pat May saying, I said this a long time ago, ex-players are slagging our players for notice, 100% no need for it. And
Yeah.
Leach's ball striking ability and passing range is seriously amazing. That's from Brandon Guy as well. I wanted to finish off on the stat, Chivy, because I thought it was interesting. And this was, The Athletic put this out this morning. Manchester United have played more games with less than 72 hours rest than any other club in Europe's top 4 leagues. 42 games with less than 3 days rest they've played. What's your current take on the fixture format at the moment? Because it's quite congested, isn't it? Do you feel like it's hindering the squad? You look at injuries, you look at burnout. Has that been a kind of a past your mind this season?
Yeah, especially when you're going through a funk. Like, I can't remember who said it. Was it Bruno? Somebody said a couple of years ago that players like games that come in quick succession because they can just keep that momentum going. Yeah, they can keep the rhythm going and all that kind of thing. And players don't really like training that much, to be honest. Like, they just like to play, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have loads of injuries, when you're going through a complete change of system, new manager, new training staff, results aren't going your way, people are getting injured. It's almost the same 11 every time. Fatigue, and it's not just physical fatigue. There's a mental fatigue as well. It adds up. It starts to catch up with you. Training sessions are intense. Recovery is more and more difficult now. Players nowadays have all these habits. Your phone, you're constantly on your phone, just different things. Like, it does add up. And I'm not surprised. Like, this, it always happens to us. We always end up playing way more than other. I don't know why. Somehow it just tends to happen that way. But I think now, we start to see. Now I'm kind of happy with the 2 week break. Players can kind of just, because they were dying already towards the end.
Amarin said that, didn't
he? Yeah. They were dead on their feet towards the end of this run. So yeah. It's good that they can get a rest now.
I think it's almost
why.
going to be a bit of a pre-season for Amarin because there's a lot of players who are staying at Carrington. There's a lot of players who aren't going away with international teams. There's players that are coming back. Mount, Kobe, like all these guys coming. Maguire's coming back as well. So in a way, it could be a bit of a shining light or a bit of silver lining. The fact that, all right, it's international break. And, Rasmus had just scored, so you probably wanted him to continue. There'll be little bits like that. But actually, he's always said all along since he's come in, he needs time on the pitch to train, to coach these players.
Yeah.
And you get 2 solid weeks now. Because when you come back, you've got a really tough fixture list. You've got Forest away. You've got Man City. Like, you've got some really tough games coming up. So it could be a blessing in disguise.
This is when we'll see all the stuff. Because I was really happy with the wins and all that kind of stuff. But I wasn't getting too carried away because, to be fair, Sociedad weren't that threatening. And Leicester were poor. Like,
they were bad.
So terrible.
They were bad.
Like, Leicester was they were poor. We were decent, but then it wasn't like, so they were poor. But now is a test. At Forest, I want that win. I really, really want that win against Forest. I want that one. I know I've kind of just given up on the season now, but then I really want that one.
Yeah, it makes sense. I know what you're saying. A third in the league at the minute on 54 points, Forest. I mean, they've got 9 games left to get Champions League football, and it looks like they're probably going to do it, unless they have an absolute disaster. So they're going to want the points as much as we are. I mean, we're currently 13th, 37 points. But to be honest, to get into like the gap from where Chelsea are to Brentford is 8 points. We're 4 points behind Brentford. Like, that's a massive...
What position is... Brentford.
So Brentford are 11th. They're on 41 points, right? Chelsea are 4th on 49.
Get out. Really?
8 points between like 9
That's
places.
just 4. What the fuck? So
That's
where's Man
crazy.
City?
So Man City are behind Chelsea on 48 points. Yeah.
I have no idea.
We're 3 or 4 wins behind Man City, basically. So,
well, Conference League. So like the Conference League could still be a thing, even though I don't want to play Conference.
No one wants it. No one wants that.
Yeah,
but
I'd rather not play.
It could be. It could well be. Yeah, if you go on a bit of a run. But yeah, I'd rather just eggs chicken in the back. We've both said it anyway. Europa League, we'd much rather win. So, yeah, I just thought that was an interesting stat to bring up towards the end. If you are watching this later on and not watching this live, because I appreciate some people do that, please do still like a video for us. Subscribe to the channel. In the bottom right-hand corner of your screen are all our socials, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter as well. We post on there consistently every single day, all the latest news. So please do drop us a follow on there. It means more than you know. And aside from that, have a wonderful day, people. You know, it's Thursday now. It's pre-weekend. So Friday tomorrow, we'll have plenty of stuff out over the weekend in terms of content. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Appreciate Chivy's time as well. We'll see you in a bit.